Okay, everybody, this is Steve Livingston here, and I'm excited to be with you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about how your daily routine is about desire. So let's first talk about right off the bat what is slipstream? So, slipstream is a current in air or water driven by an object in motion in front of it. This force draws something along behind it, and whatever is behind this force is pulled along in the slipstream. In racing, we call it drafting. Now, for our definition, it would be our ability to get into the behind these driving forces and would allow us to get from point A to point B very quickly because we'll be drawn along by the force of it. So the slipstream is principles. Principles are truths packaged for application, and they exist and are always there to get into. We just need to get into the slipstream. Now, what we desire is the first step in getting into the slipstream. So, we're going to talk about what it means more about getting into the slipstream next week on my first podcast of Slipstream, the Steve Livingston Show. Look for it next week on Friday. As far as on podcasts on iTunes and at other locations. So, daily routines are about desire. Desires dictate our priorities. Priorities shape our choices, and choices determine our actions. The desires we act on determine our changing, our achieving, and our becoming. That's what Dallin Oaks says. Let me say that again. Desires dictate our priorities. Priorities shape our choices. Choices determine our actions. The desires we act on determine our changing, our achieving, and our becoming. Now, everyone has basic desires that we fulfill every single day. We all need to eat, we all need shelter, and we all need to sleep. Now, these can be overridden for short periods of time, but basically they need to be met. For example, even the basic desire to sleep can be overridden by an even more important desire. For example, Dallin Oaks talks about as a young soldier in the Utah National Guard. He learned this example from a combat seasoned officer. He said this: in the early months of the Korean War, a Richfield, Utah National Guard Field Artillery Battery was called into active service. This battery was commanded by Captain Ray Cox. It consisted of about 40 Mormon men. After additional training and reinforcement by reservists from elsewhere, they were sent to Korea, where they experienced some of the fiercest combat of the war. In one battle, they had to repel a direct assault by hundreds of enemy infantry, the kind of attack that overran and destroyed other field artillery batteries. Well, what does this have to do with overcoming the desire for sleep? That's one of our main things, right? During one critical night, when enemy infantry had poured through the front lines and into the rear areas occupied by the artillery, the captain had the field telephone lines wired into his tent and ordered his numerous perimeter guards to phone him personally each hour on the hour all night long. This kept the guards awake, but it also meant that Captain Cox had scores of interruptions to his sleep. How could he do that? Dallin Oaks asked him. His answer shows the power of overriding desire. I knew that if we ever got home, I would be meeting the parents of those boys on the streets in our small town. And I didn't want to face any of them if their son didn't make it home because of anything I failed to do as his commander. Well, what an example of the power of an overriding desire on priorities and on actions. What a powerful example for all of us who are responsible for the welfare of others and our own welfare for that matter. Now, as a conclusion to this particular illustration, early the following morning, on that nearly sleepless night, Captain Cox led his men in a counterattack on the enemy infantry. They took over 800 prisoners and suffered only 2 wounded. Cox was decorated for bravery, and his battery received a Presidential Unit citation for its extraordinary heroism. We should really remember that desires cannot be impulsive, superficial, or temporary. They must be unwavering, permanent, and heartfelt. And so once we get kind of motivated, where do we start? Now, to achieve our potential, we need to work and desire the character required to become our best selves. And in order to focus on our qualities and character, we need to know why. And we need to know why we do things. We need to do it by little things and a few degrees at a time. It's the little things that matter. Some people at this point will say, "But Steve, how do you do it?" Now, to be sure, how things we do things really matters, but it's not important as the why. Or they say, "Steve, I want to do big things." Well, we believe and think big, but successful people do small things that matter and they do them well. They do it by degrees in big ways. If you can choose the right small things, listen to this. If you can choose the right small things, consistently applying the right small things will lead to great improvement. Now, I'll give you an example. Have you ever seen a 16-foot cattle gate? The movement at the hinges is very, very small, but out at the end of the gate, the result is huge as the gate moves and opens. So the reverse kind of not the reverse, but kind of the reverse. I sometimes take my boat out onto the Gulf of Mexico, and I use a GPS mapping system to get myself where I want to go. If I am going a long distance and I am off by just 1 degree, I will miss my destination altogether. And even though it's only 1 degree, by the time I get way out there, it has caused a huge deviant in where I'm supposed to be. It's like so that's the way it is with changing your character. If you want to change, you need to know why, and you need to do the little things because it's the little things that lead to big change. So let's talk a little bit about knowing why. Knowing why gives power to what you do. And getting clear on the why sometimes can be a little bit difficult. Why? Because something can be true and yet not be the truth. Now, some of you are like, well, what do you mean it can be true but not be the truth? Well, all too often, truths are based on incomplete and inaccurate evidence. And at times, they serve sometimes for some people very selfish motives. Now, Dieter Uchtdorf said it this way. He said, well over 100 years ago, an American poet put to rhyme an ancient parable. The first verse of the poem speaks about this. It's the blind man and the elephant. So this American poet, John Godfrey Sachs, wrote, and 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. In the poem, each of the 6 travelers takes a hold of a different part of the elephant and then describes to the others what he has discovered. One of the men finds the elephant's leg and describes it as being round and rough like a tree. Another feels the tusk and describes the elephant as a spear. The third grabs the tail and insists that an elephant is like a rope. A fourth discovers the trunk and insists that the elephant is like a large snake. The poem concludes this way. And so these men of Indostan disputed long and loud, each in his own opinion, exceedingly stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right, and all were in the wrong. Something can be true and still not be the truth. And yet when it comes to our daily routines, remember that that's what we're talking about. We need to have a strong why. That why comes out of truth, actual truth. Often truth is simple. And I believe we need to use our talents and our mental capacity and desire to earnestly discover truth. We do this through logic and reason, scientific inquiry, and yes, through inspiration to discover truth. And we do the little things to become truth. Character or that attribute that we want in our lives. Now, let me say that again. We do little things to become the truth, character, attribute that we want in life. And we apply principles. Principles are truth packaged for application. Now, these principles will lead to the character that we want. And we got to spend some time identifying those things. So let's talk a little bit about daily routines and desire. And the principles that we would want to apply. Principle number 1, words create reality. So if I have a desire to change my reality, a basic daily routine would then be write every day. And I would write about 2 things every day. These 2 things would flow out and build the character that you want. For example, first, The first things that I would write about if I was just starting off would be gratitude. Write the things that you are grateful for. Now, that's because of this. Remember, being thankful leads to gratitude. Gratitude leads to humility, and humility leads to inspiration. I'll say that again. Remember, being thankful leads to gratitude. Gratitude leads to humility. Humility leads to inspiration. Now, the second thing I would write about would be desires. Write the desires of your heart. Be honest with yourself. Write about and get clear on the things that matter. Write quotes that inspire and increase your desire. Write clear action items. Those action items should be the to-be list, not the to-do list, but a to-be list. So just write and write every day. Principle number 2, seek for truth. So if you desire to have and become truth in your life, a basic daily routine would be study inspirational material. For me, I read and study scriptures and other good books, and I make time for it every day. The individuals who have written the material I choose to study are my mentors. And the best time for me to spend with my mentors is in the morning. I study not only what they say, but how they say it. And they set me on a path to inspiration. And that idea of what and how they say it, I'll have to get more specific on some other day. Now, principle number 3. If you desire to have inspiration in your life, a basic daily routine would be ponder and meditate. Now, for me, pondering is the praying and thinking I do after I study and spend time with my mentors. It's finding a place in your life without distractions where you can truly ponder, pray, and meditate on the things that you've learned that day. So at this point, some of you are saying, Steve, I don't have time for this. Well, let me be blunt. You don't have the time not to. You have to make time in your life for these things. It's not like a side note. It is what you should and can be doing. Principle number 4, health and wellness. If you desire health and wellness in your life, a basic daily routine would be just simply this: get moving. We all know physical exercise leads to greater health and wellness. Just find something you enjoy and get moving. Principle number 5, love is the key in life. If you desire to have love in your life, the basic daily routine would be give love. Start with giving love to those around you in simple ways every day. It's the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Do simple things for those around you that would show them that you love, and love will come into your life. Now, let's talk a little bit about developing desire. How do we develop desires? Download shared this story. Few will have the kind of crisis that motivated Aaron Ralston, but his experience provides a valuable lesson about developing desires. While Ralston was hiking in a remote canyon in southern Utah, an 800-pound rock shifted suddenly and trapped his right arm. For 5 lonely days, he struggled to free himself. When he was about to give up and accept death, he had a vision of a 3-year-old boy running toward him and being scooped up with his left arm. Understanding this vision of his future son and an assurance that he could still live, Ralston summoned the courage and took drastic action to save his life before his strength ran out. He broke the 2 bones in his trapped right arm, and then he used a knife in his multi-tool to cut off that arm. He then summoned the strength to hike 5 miles for help. What an example of the power of an overwhelming desire. When we have the vision of what we can become, our desire and our power to act increase enormously. Let me say that again. When we have a vision of what we can become, our desire and our power to act increase enormously. Enormously. I can't even talk today. We should remember that desires cannot be impulsive, superficial, or temporary. They must be heartfelt, unwavering, and permanent. Desire must motivate you, enough to motivate you to do simple, consistent things. Choose the right small thing and be consistently obedient. and consistent obedience will bring great improvement. Let's get back to the beginning. Remember, desires dictate our priorities. Priorities shape our choices, and choices determine our actions. The desires we act on determine our changing, our achieving, and our becoming. And so I just would encourage you, when you think about your daily routine, just don't pick some things. Don't pick too many things. Pick simple things that you can be consistent at over time. And I promise great improvement will come into your life. But it does start with desire. And oftentimes you have to be inspired in such a way where you get motivated enough and you desire to do something about it. All right. It's good to be with you today. Basically, daily routines are about desire, and we got to get into the slipstream. It was good talking with you. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you later. Okay, everybody, just hope you're enjoying the day-to-day of video blogs. Just wanted to invite you, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, go out to Facebook, to the Livingstone Life, and like my page, follow me, and I'll be posting things all the time, at least 2 to 3 times a week. Also, if you want some of the previous articles that I've written and video blogged about, go out to stephenlivingston.org, and you can find out all the material there. Anyway, it's been good to have you, and I hope that you'll follow me and look forward also to my podcast that is going to be beginning called Slipstream. Anyway, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you later.